Hello, welcome to Cerulean Arts Gallery. Tonight we're speaking with Alyce Grunt in conjunction with her Cerulean Arts Collective Exhibition, which is on view now through July 27th. Hello, Alyce.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Tina.
Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me for hanging the show.
Of course. So tell us a bit about the new show.
Well, you'll see, and you can kind of even just get a glance here. There's definitely a lot of still life, and then it's also some landscapes and a little bit of interior work, subjects that I'm drawn to over and over. The piece that Tina is zooming in on, sometimes I'm a very responsive painter. Like I don't necessarily have a plan, and a neighbor just cut a bouquet of flowers and left it on our back deck. So I just decided to paint it. And that's happened a few times. There's another one of these from a different neighbor, if you can believe it, on the other side of my house, who also left us a bouquet. So I do like to sometimes just respond to those moments. This same neighbor last year, she grew tomatoes, and they were in a painting. The last show I had, not last year, but the last show. So I'm continuing to paint a lot of what I observe around me that I just find inspiring. So in all of the work, whether it's inside or outside, a lot of it has to do with that pattern of light and shadow, and I'm drawn to that kind of over and over. And um, so some of them I'm more zoomed in, like in a still life you're seeing here, and I get just really captivated by the light and how the objects are sort of translucent, whether it's glass or the leaves. Sometimes the light is coming through the leaves structure or bounced off on the top. And there's reflections and things that can happen inside or outside. But in the still life, which I also teach a lot because I teach high school drawing and painting, I do spend a lot of time thinking about still life.
So these are in your house.
Yeah, they are. This one was right outside. This was the neighbor on the other side who gave me this little bouquet one day. Again, just decided sometimes I just sort of like to, it's almost like a prompt, I guess. Somebody, they don't even know that they're doing that, but they give me something and I just like to respond to it. So that's like at home, but outside. But yeah, a lot of the still lifes are set up inside actually. Um, and it's funny because at work, I'm constantly making setups and thinking about, what makes a setup compelling and how much do I want it to be set up versus how much do I kind of discover just from how things are randomly. And these are kind of a mix. Like part of it is already something I see on a windowsill, but then I put some things, in the scene or move things around a little bit. And that actually is a really interesting part of the process for me too. This is the composing.
So do you do preparatory work before you paint?
It's funny, I make my students do that. And a long time ago I did. Um, the preparatory work I'm doing oddly isn't I can't believe I'm saying this. I make my students do so many times. I look through Viewfinder a lot and I move and I can kind of see the composition with that viewfinder. And I'm really picky about where things are hitting edges of the frame. So, and I'm changing it so much. And then when I hit upon it, and I have, for people who may not know, it's a viewfinder is like when you look at your phone when you're taking a photo, it's whatever you see on the screen. And in this case, it's just a window with two, you guys can't see me. I don't know if you can see me, but two L shapes.
Right.
And I
Yeah,
put
do that again.
okay, yeah, I'm sorry. It's like two L's. Like I could have brought them. I'm such a show and tell person, but I just cut out two cardboard L's. When you put them together, I put strings down the center. I can hold that up and frame what I'm looking at, and I call it window shopping to my students. Like you're really just being as picky as you can be about what you want in your image. And so because I do that, and I sort of know where the center will be, then I can get that onto the canvas once I like what I'm seeing through the viewfinder.
So you don't have to do a bunch of drawings ahead of time anymore.
And I love drawing. It get me wrong, but I think for some reason this has just been how my process has evolved. Maybe partly because I work outside a lot, and there's like a racing the clock thing with light and shadow that starts to happen. even inside, because a lot of these still lifes aren't done with artificial light. I don't think any of them are. So I'm kind of racing the sun. So I guess it's a way for me to see exactly the frame I want. After I've looked, I walk around, I move stuff. But once I've done that, then I will, yeah, just start painting directly on the canvas. But I draw it on the canvas with line, like with painted line. And sometimes I have to move something, but it's usually pretty much what I've seen.
So this is unusual since it's a horizontal. A lot of your work is square.
I know I do really love these different proportions. It's funny again because a project I do with my students, they can pick a format and it can be 1:1, 1:2, and I think this is a 1:3. It's a 10 by 30, I think. And it's really satisfying. This format is really fun to work with, also for still life. And I had done this painting a little while ago. I haven't worked on this kind of format as much recently, but I've been interested in revisiting that. Maybe because of the projects that I teach at school. It's inevitable that when students do a 1:3, there's just something very satisfying about that proportion. But I also love squares, like obviously. So yeah, it's just something. It just changes when you adjust the viewfinder. Now your viewfinder changes and you see it.
So can you finish these in one shot or do you go back?
Smaller paintings like this. I think this painting I did in one. I think I did this in one day. That previous one, it may have been one day, but the other landscapes that are in the show took longer. Um, so it sort of depends, and it depends how big it is. What is this? It's a 10 by 10 or a 12 by 12. This was smaller. It must be a 10. It's a 10 by 10. So yeah, I probably did that in a day. Um, and this one is a little more quickly painted. But yeah, this wall they're more quickly done. Actually, it's like Tina knew when she installed this, or you guys maybe did this. Um, these were more quickly like just immediate response to a scene. The other one, the sun was setting, and I don't work from photos, so it was really quick, um, and very satisfying to just capture that sunset on the left. But others take longer. Yeah, this is the take longer wall.
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way, but now that I'm seeing it with that lens, it like does happen. Yeah, and it's funny when I see this, like I go right to what's in the center. It's that little triangle past that stop sign. And that's sort of how I'll orient myself. And then everything else is a relationship, and how the shapes relate to that beginning mark or something. And a lot of artists will say that, but it really is just finding relationships between value, between color. Um, and I just find that, I guess it's like a puzzle, but it's something very satisfying to put together.
It's your neighborhood.
Yes, we moved, but yes, yes, not too far away.
So how extensively do you set up your palette ahead of time
Um,
to prepare to paint
it's funny. I have
outside?
videos and things of artists, and they premix colors, and I've lately simplified my palette. I've gotten a little bit away, sort of intentionally, from cadmiums, even though I love the color, like I can see a difference, but I'm just trying to use less things that I have to worry about disposing of and such. And I just have them on my palette along the top, always in the same, order. And then I do not premix anything. Like I just, as I need it, I don't know, I just know how to get the exact color I want, kind of underneath. I didn't know that was really a thing, but I think as I watch my students sometimes struggle with that, I realize that that's not maybe how everybody's brain works, but um, I just can figure it out. So I don't know, I don't premix, I guess, if that's what you're asking. And I'm
Yeah,
probably,
just curious.
yeah,
Some people do and some people don't.
yeah, no, it's always really fascinating to see like palettes with lots of colors mixed up. Um, I'm trying to think how I would explain it. I'd probably squeeze out like, two yellows, two reds, two blues, be two kinds of browns and white. Um, but then I
So
just mixed,
the one we're looking at's an interior
yes, yeah,
with your son.
sure, yeah.
He was cooperative model.
Oh, my son, no, no. He really wasn't uncooperative. What happens, and I may have said this before, but I just pick a spot I want to paint, and inevitably he ends up coming into that spot to read, to do whatever. I don't know.
Hmm.
So, and in fairness, this is a spot everybody sits, like that particular corner. And in fact, that painting is so old that when I originally started, my husband was sitting in that corner. And it's a joke. If you get up, like you lose that. That's like the high value. I don't know why, but that's the high value corner. So originally, my husband was sitting there, and my son was over. Like my son was younger even. This painting has taken some longer time. Um, he had shorter hair and he was younger, and he was on the other side that's now empty. And then eventually, I just really didn't like how the figure was working, and my husband's not as cooperative, so my son wasn't there. I just was like, I'm going to repaint it, take out the figures. And I really liked the plant in the background. I'd had that rubber tree plant, and I kept being drawn to that. And so I kept that, and I just kept going with no figures. And sure enough, he showed back up. But I don't tell him to sit still. I like to just try to get it. He usually is somewhat still. And then when I see these, I think of how hot it's been. This was from last summer, and just trying to find those shady spots to be in while painting. Um, so I was in this little
So how long do you last outside doing one of
No,
these?
that's another problem. And so I've been painting closer to my house because, like, this is in the front yard because it's so hot. Since I'm a teacher, I do paint during the school year, but I'm as we looked through the show, a lot of them I did with the still lives or that interior. But these, when I'm like really outside like this, a lot of those are in the summertime, and it's so hot. And so yeah, I can't after like 45 minutes or an hour, like I have to stop and go in, and then I'll come on to the next day. And this is a smaller painting, and maybe I did it in 2 or 3 days. I can't quite remember, but um, and then this one was very hot. It's terrible to say, but it was so hot. So I was attracted to that little tiny bit of water. I was like, I just have to think about water. And there's no like pond near my house or anything. So I was like, I will focus on that bird bath. And then a bird actually did fly by at one point. A little goldfinch came by, which was kind of neat. Maybe 4 or 5 days into this painting. But I could only do this in small increments. It was hot. I'm feeling cool just seeing the snow scene on the far right there. We've been growing a lot of plants. My husband got really focused on native plants, so a lot of these are things he allowed in the garden, native to our region, I guess. And then he started growing things from seeds. I don't know if any of these were those, but it's kind of fun to see the paintings that it's kind of combined effort, I guess. He's creating the landscape and this one again, I was really looking, there's like the cool shadows, trying to find those cool places to paint. Probably did this in July last summer. And another one just like before, like short burst of painting, coming back a couple times. It's just too hot. I continue to be really drawn to architecture. Um, just in a sense, like I'm talking about composing with shapes, like that's what painting is to me. And sometimes these houses are already doing that just in their architectural design. They're so interesting how all the shapes relate to the other shapes, and then I'm doing, I'm really in the shapes, so I'm painting it. It sort of reminds me of what I think about when I'm painting. It's just how shapes relate to shapes and colors, and again, I find it satisfying to see the light, defining the forms and the vegetation and everything.
Do you consider these portraits in a way?
Yes, I do actually. I feel like for a while I was calling them house portraits. It's funny you asked that. That sounds vaguely very familiar. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of character. I tend to be drawn to older homes that have a lot of nuance and character in them for painting because they just have so many complexities and things. And since I work outside, I never mind painting outside in the snow. It's really nice, actually, as long as you're dressed for it. Um, my son built two snowmen, so that was a nice little touch. I was when he did that, I just was motivated to paint that. It was charming. And then that snow began to melt, and I sort of like that combination of, seeing the warmer season coming, but it was still some winter left over. That might have been like March. I can't remember. We had snow, but spring was just around the corner.
What creates a different color situation?
Yeah, there's it's those
Snow.
there. Yeah, those bluey, gray blue colors are so they set things off so in a way that's so exciting. And it might be exciting because I don't have that option of palette a lot. Perhaps if it was snowing here all the time, I wouldn't find it as exciting, but because it just takes all the colors I'm familiar with and it just presents this whole other blanket. It's funny because before this talk, I gathered a couple of artist books that I always like to have around. I might have even mentioned this artist. I feel like I mentioned this artist to you last time, but there's an artist who his name was Schofield. What was his first name? It'll come to me in a second. But he did a lot of like Wisnikin in the snow, um, and they're just beautiful. So I'm often attracted to that. Elmer Schofield, I think it is. Elmer Schofield. This was a fun wall to see. I like how you guys grouped all these together. One of them is local in the suburbs of Philadelphia, but the others are like up in New Hampshire. And it's also another kind of puzzle of its own, just getting my head around water and how water reflects light and color. And those distortions can be really interesting to play with. It's similar in a way to painting even glass in the still lifes from earlier. Um, it's that same kind of distorting that I find really interesting.
So speaking of still life, you're offering a composing your still life workshop.
Yes, actually, that viewfinder thing comes in really handy. And yes, the idea would be that we actually make our own viewfinders and get comfortable finding and framing things and seeing which format works to be satisfying. As you can see, I'm very attracted to like a square, like the one by one, but um, playing with that it can really help you see things differently. My students
You'll
always,
set up a still life for that.
pardon me?
You'll set up a still life for that.
Yeah. And I was just saying, like my students, it's so interesting because in their first year, like we've traditional size canvas, 16 by 24. But when they get to that upper level class, we build our own canvases. So when they realize they can see like a 1 by 3, it really blows their mind. It's so interesting because they get so used to the standard size, the standard shape of palettes and of standard paper and things. So it's helps them see things differently, I think. It's very powerful.
Well, it's a beautiful show, Alice.
Thank you so much. Thanks for everything you guys did. It looks beautiful. It was really fun. It's like I get to see it with fresh eyes, all the work that I live with.
Yeah, it does make a difference when you get it from your studio into an outside space.
Absolutely. And the lighting's different. Yeah. And the groupings. Yeah, it's lovely. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. The show is up through July 27th, so we hope people come down to check it out. And everything's also available on the website, including Alice's workshop, ceruleanarts.com. So thanks so much, Alice, for being here and have a great night.
Okay, thanks, Tina. Thanks, Mike. Take care.